the world headquarters of Fox News, it's The Kelly File with Megyn Kelly.
Well, new fallout tonight after a court dealt a major blow to President Obama's executive action on immigration. A new ruling from a federal court judge in Texas forcing the Department of Homeland Security to put a hold on the president's executive order that would have deferred deportations for millions. Judge Andrew Hannon wrote that DHS Secretary Jay Johnson is not just rewriting the laws, he is creating them from scratch. The Obama administration has vowed to appeal that ruling, although hasn't yet. Here to react, we have Senator Ted Cruz and Judge Andrew Napolitano. We go first to the judge. Judge, how bad is this for the administration?
Well, this is devastating for the administration. This is a preliminary injunction, which means the court viewed the government's documents and the challengers' documents. The challengers are the attorneys general of 26 states. And he made two conclusions. One, at the end of the case, the challengers will probably prevail, meaning the president probably overstepped his bounds, and he has ordered the Department of Homeland Security to create new law. And two, if he does not impose the temporary restraints that he imposed last night, actually, irreparable harm will be visited upon the 26 states.
Because what was about to happen on Wednesday, tomorrow, is the administration was about to start issuing paperwork for these illegal immigrants and so on, actually doing things to help the transition take place. And the judge said, no, that you are asking the DHS to use discretion that they do not have.
Here's the lead. In my opinion, I suspect Senator Cruz agrees as well, but of course he can speak for himself. In my opinion, the Obama amnesty plan is dead. Absolutely dead. I don't think the appeals court will interfere with this decision.
Really?
And I think it will take this trial judge for the duration of President Obama's term to rule on this with finality. And once President Obama is no longer in office, these executive orders are of no moment whatsoever.
What's incredible about his order is normally it's very hard to get temporary relief like these 26 states got. Normally they'll say, we'll hear you out on the merits later. But they convinced this judge that if he did not stop this executive order, that there was going to be irreparable harm. There was no way to put the genie back in the bottle.
The judge actually called them disingenuous when they claimed they were not changing the law. He ruled that they were changing the law and that they violated federal law in the manner in which they changed federal law. They didn't have a 30-day waiting period. They didn't give Congress the opportunity to weigh in. They didn't let the public weigh in. They didn't publish their rules early enough. They just changed like the president has said he would, with a phone and with a pen.
What are the odds of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, a conservative-leaning court, reversing this lower court judge?
It is now the most conservative Circuit Court of Appeals in the United States. Prediction, they will not interfere. This 125-page opinion reads like a treatise on the government's inappropriate behavior in this case, not from Congress, all mandated from the president himself.
If the Fifth Circuit upholds the lower court's ruling, then Eric Holder will likely appeal that up to the U.S. Supreme Court. What are the odds of the high court getting involved in this quickly?
None. The High Court does not want to hear this case until it's been ruled on with finality below. And the Fifth Circuit doesn't want to hear this case until it's been ruled on with finality below.
Wow. So this could be a major blow,
I think it is.
Judge, good to see you.
Likewise.
Well, earlier tonight, I had a chance to get reaction from Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas. He was in Houston tonight. Senator, good of you to be here. And so this is playing out in the courts, but it's also playing out in the U.S. Congress, where the Republicans have agreed to fund the Department of Homeland Security, except for that part of the Department of Homeland Security that would implement the president's executive action. And because that spending bill has that limitation, the Democrats have been saying, we're going to filibuster that. We're not having a vote on that. That's not appropriate. So in light of this ruling today, where does that leave us?
Well, Megyn, you're exactly right. Last night's ruling was a major victory for the rule of law. Texas led a coalition of 26 states challenging the president's illegal and unconstitutional executive amnesty. And the federal court concluded last night that the executive amnesty that the president attempted to put into place in November was contrary to federal law. That is a major victory, and it is a major step in stopping and permanently stopping the illegal amnesty that the president put into effect in November in defiance of the results at the polls in November of 2014. Now your question is, what happens in Congress. Congress needs to fund the Department of Homeland Security. And Senate Democrats should look very carefully at this decision, because Senate Democrats right now are filibustering funding for DHS at a time where we've got growing threats both at home and abroad.
But that's because they want all of it.
Reckless and irresponsible.
That's because they want everything funded. They want to fund the department, but they want it all funded.
Well, and the House of Representatives has voted to fund DHS, and the Senate Democrats are filibustering the bill. They're refusing to let the Senate even take up the bill. You know, if they disagree with the bill the House funded, what they can do is take it up and offer an amendment. We're not in the Harry Reid Democratic Senate anymore, where no amendments are allowed by anybody. With a Republican majority, the Republicans have been allowing Democrats to offer the amendments they want. They can offer an amendment, but the Democrats 3 times have filibustered funding. And to do it at a time where we face such threats, I think is reckless. They're holding national security hostage in order to defend the president's illegal amnesty. And given the fact that last night a federal court made clear this amnesty is contrary to federal law, it's illegal, it makes the Democrats' position all the more untenable that they're threatening to shut down the Department of Homeland Security in order to stand as a partisan bloc protecting the amnesty that a federal court has now declared to be illegal.
The federal court called this a massive change in immigration practice, said that the Obama administration is disingenuous to say that the immigration actions do not significantly alter policy. And yet, in the wake of the brushback that the administration was given yesterday, here is what President Obama said his future plans are on this.
With respect to the ruling, I disagree with it. I think the law is on our side and history is on our side. And we are going to appeal it. We will be prepared to implement this fully as soon as the legal issues get resolved.
He seems undeterred.
Well, that has been the nature of the Obama presidency from day one. You know, it's interesting. He says the law is on his side. There's at least one person who calls himself a legal scholar who disagrees, and his name is Barack Obama. 22 times President Obama has admitted he doesn't have the authority to issue unilateral amnesty. 22 times he says the Constitution doesn't allow it. He said this is not a monarchy. That's his quote.
That's a fact.
And then after the last election, he said, never mind, and issued it anyway.
I want the viewers to know that is a fact, and the administration continues to deny it and fail to explain it and try to tell us it's not a fact, but it is a fact that has yet to be explained, and we'll see whether that has an impact on the courts. But in the meantime, the administration is fighting back on the merits as well, saying to people like you who disagree with his action, they want to go back to, you know, the mom. They talk about, this is the president today, we should not be tearing some mom away from a child when the child has been born here and the mom has been living here minding her own business. He says to pretend like we are just going to ship these folks off is not who we are.
Look, the president can make policy arguments, and the place to make them is to Congress. And when it comes to immigration reform, I think there's a lot of common ground. I think outside of Washington, there is overwhelming bipartisan agreement that we've got to get serious about securing the borders and stopping illegal immigration. I think there's also substantial bipartisan agreement outside of Washington that we need to improve and streamline legal immigration so we remain a nation that welcomes.
The president says he waited and waited and waited, couldn't wait any longer. You guys didn't do it. You didn't do it fast enough.
Well, he does say that, Megan, but his definition is you have to do what he says. It's my way or the highway. And our Constitution was designed to force compromise. And you're right. Congress didn't give the president everything he wants, and under our system of checks and balances, that doesn't mean the president can unilaterally ignore federal law and ignore the Constitution. You know, this district court opinion, it's a 50-page opinion, which I would encourage anyone interested in the law to read this opinion because it's a careful, scholarly opinion. And one of the things it points out is the president has claimed, rather absurdly, that the basis of his authority is, quote, prosecutorial discretion, that he's simply choosing not to prosecute 4.5 million people here illegally. But what the district court concluded quite rightly is they're doing far more than that. The administration is printing work authorizations. It is affirmatively acting in contravention of federal law. Basically what it's doing is counterfeiting immigration documents, because the work authorizations it's printing are directly contrary to the text of federal law. And it is dangerous.
That is what
he talked about. The president ignores federal law.
He talked about how the law mandates that these illegally present individuals must be removed, and that what the administration is doing here is affirmatively saying exactly the opposite to the DHS.
Right.
I've got to leave it there because we're out of time on this tonight. Senator Ted Cruz, good to see you.
Thank you, Megan.
Well, as we just mentioned, this immigration challenge came originally from the state of Texas. And we also had a chance tonight to get reaction from former Governor Rick Perry.
I don't think the American people, after 8 years of Barack Obama, are going to make just a slight change in direction. I think there's going to be a major sea change, if you will. And one of the governors that's out there, a tested individual who's got a real record, a competent individual who has led a major entity.
That was the governor on 2016. We have more of that subject with Governor Perry tomorrow night, including his reaction to the recent controversy over evolution. Governor Perry tomorrow night, only on the Kelly File. And still ahead, when angry union supporters mobbed the house of Governor Scott Walker last night, they missed the governor, but they did manage to yell at his elderly parents. Governor Walker is here next with that, plus some possible breaking news from the campaign trail. Don't miss it.
No education!